So what we're going to talk about today is reward and recognition. It won't be as much as a practical class as normal, because the actual mechanisms for doing the reward and recognition are fairly simple, and you're probably pretty familiar with most of them anyway. So we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about the whys and the benefits and some of the extra features that TeamKinetic has that may help you with the reward and recognition. These are the outline of the things we're going to achieve today. So we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about reward and recognition, why it's important, why you might have reservations about rewarding volunteers. I know that's a key issue for some people. We're going to learn a lot about the feedback and the importance of adding that feedback and what is good feedback, the importance of logging hours, and then we're going to talk about some of the features in TeamKinetic which can help with that reward and recognition. Some of these are quite underused, so we'd like to see people to get to use them more. A couple of keywords if you've not come across these before. So we're going to be talking about the award badges, which are the customizable award badges which you can add, which are not automatically assigned when they log certain numbers of hours. So you might notice in the super admin menu that you've got the regular award badges and then the custom award badges. We're going to talk about both of those. The feedback is what we call anything that the volunteer leaves after the opportunity's finished, or anything that the admin or provider leaves after the opportunity's finished. That includes the thumbed up. I don't know what happened there. That's random. I've got gremlins in the system there. I swear I didn't touch the keyboard. And also with the thumbs up and thumbs down to say whether it's positive or negative. The hour trades is something that not as many customers use as we'd like, which are where you set up an exchange for hours. And then we've got the integrations, which are things like tempo time credits and stuff like that, which we'll talk about. The tooltips are always worth mentioning. These are the small little gray icons with a question mark in, which give you a little bit of extra context or help about the feature you're looking at. In general, we always go through this slide where you can find help from. Apologies if you know all this already. So it's always worth checking out the help and support menu. There you've got the video section, the tutorial section, and there's always new stuff going in there. And as we create new masterclasses, that's where we put the videos and the workbooks and the slideshows and all those sorts of things. You can ask your your peers for help in the peer help and chat. So any questions you ask there go to us, but they're also public to all the other admins. So that's great if you want some information or some help on how to achieve certain goals. The tooltips we just mentioned, always click on those. They often help with context. The question mark at the top right of the screen has our help, searchable help, so you can search for topics in there. It'll also show you any help that we think is relevant to the page you're on at that point. And then obviously we've got the support tickets and the chat with us link. You can ask a question straight away. There's always someone on that sort of 10 to 4 working days. We encourage people not to use email for support. If you're stuck, obviously, if you can't get on the system or for whatever reason you can't get in the support ticket system, then obviously you have to use email. But they tend to get lost and get piled under a lot of other emails, and they take longer to respond to. The workbook link you should have all had in your email that you got around when you booked the course. As I say, it's also available in the help menu. I'll also stick it in the chat at the end of this course, so you can grab it there. Okay, so reward and recognition. So you all know, obviously, that volunteers volunteer for all sorts of reasons, and it's rarely to receive a reward. It could be a personal connection to an organization. The organization has helped them or their family in the past. They just enjoy the work. They like the social aspects of it. There's all sorts of reasons, but it's very rarely directly because they expect a reward. It can be transactional sometimes. We have some customers, for instance, that work in the entertainment industry or like football clubs and things like that. And there sometimes people go just to get access to that ground or that thing. But that's the minority. Most people are in it for reasons of their own. But it doesn't mean they don't like being recognized and appreciated for what they do. And I'm sure you all realize that. There's a great book which I recommend picking up and having a look at by our own Ruth Leonard and Jürgen Rotz. And their quote there is, everyone likes to be appreciated and recognized for what they've done. It doesn't mean that people are constantly looking for thanks, rather it becomes noticed if it's given. So it's really the lack of that recognition that volunteers notice. They're not looking for that recognition, but if it doesn't come, then it triggers something in them, and they feel a little bit unappreciated, I guess. So it's very important to reward and recognise your volunteers. But that reward and recognition can take many aspects. So why it matters, it's been shown through the data that people like Ruth and Jürgen have looked at, that volunteers who feel that they've been recognised will stay longer, will give more, will develop more in their roles. It creates stronger communities. People tend to pass it on. So if volunteers are recognised, they tend to recognise the other volunteers around them, and it spreads that sort of reciprocal sort of arrangement. In a purely transactional sense, you tend to get better program outcomes if you're on top of your reward and recognition. There's higher engagement, there's higher re-engagement, there's better continuity because people stay around longer and those sorts of things. That leads into having a better business case for your program, in that you have less churn, you have plenty of volunteers, people don't leave often, there's less onboarding, those sorts of things. So it can help with your business case as well. It's important to recognize that the recognition, the rewards you give to your volunteers do not undermine that generosity. There's no evidence that people, if you start to recognize their achievements or start to recognize the time they put in, there's no evidence that by doing that, then they will work less or give less, unless the reward and the recognition increases, concurrently with that. It doesn't have that effect. So anyone that fears that maybe volunteers will stop unless they keep getting these rewards or recognition, the evidence isn't there for that. I'm going to ask everyone now if people want to put their hands up or make some comments about whether they currently do reward and recognize their volunteers, and what sort of mechanisms they use right now to do it. If anyone's got any comments about that, and whether they have any fears about recognition reward, or any opinions about whether rewards should be physical or not. Anyone got anything to say about it before we move on? It's usually quite a hot topic that people okay, so Izzy says that they do the emails to thank volunteers. So do you create them individually for the volunteers, or do you just scoop them up at the end of an opportunity and email everybody?
So we do kind of not blanket, because obviously it should all be reasonably personalised, but we do one that comes from one of our heads of individual giving. Okay. So it's kind of got her name to it. No offence to myself, but I'm not a head of anything. So sometimes we wanted to do it in a way to recognise that it's been seen by multiple members of the organisation. We then also did specialised ones for that came from me and one of my colleagues, that were personalised to kind of our top volunteers, so those who did over 80 hours, for example, and they were all completely personalised. Okay, well that's great. It raises an important thing, that sometimes volunteers feel that even with people on the ground, and they understand that their work is important and what they're doing, they see it day to day. Sometimes they feel that they're because they're not a paid employee in an organization, they feel lesser. So involving people at a higher level in the organization can definitely be a real validation point for those volunteers. And if you look at some of the very large organizations with big volunteer departments, that's something they do. They bring those people in. Caitlin has just said that they have a big event each year, or they do events each year. Those sorts of things where you bring in the larger community around them, the organizations or people that they help indirectly, those sorts of things can really help with that validation. So there's quite a few people saying that they do emails, and they use general messaging and things like that. And they bring Wirral Carers Allowance. Sorry, there's no name for that person. They bring people together to celebrate their volunteering at certain times. So you're obviously on board with the reward and recognition idea, which is great. It'll be interesting later on when I show you some of the ways to do it in app, because I realize that some of you are doing it manually with emails and stuff like that, which might not necessarily be. You might not necessarily have to do that. There are maybe more automated ways to do it. So moving on, these are just some of the ways that people want to be recognized. So, you've told me that you've spoken about emails and get-togethers and things like that. So you can see here that the biggest
way that people want to be recognized. This one add up to 100 because people had multiple choices, I believe. Just a verbal written thanks from the club or the organization. So that's an email, a text, a letter, certificates, those sorts of things. That's enough. You don't have to go crazy. It's great if you can do extra things, but you look at this graph and you realize that that's enough for most volunteers. And then it goes all the way down to right at the bottom, which is, people don't want to be particular. Oh, sorry. I'll stop using the mouse on screen. People don't need to be recognized in media posts and social media and stuff. Some people are embarrassed about that. It's a personal thing for them and they don't want it. They might not necessarily want it spread around. And you can see even physical gifts like vouchers and flowers and things is pretty low down. Most people just want to be found, which is good news. It's the one that's probably the least expensive to achieve. It still takes effort, but it's the least expensive to achieve. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the feedback options, and in relation to that graph we just looked at, the feedback's pretty important. So TeamKinetic has its own feedback system, and if you don't change any of the settings, that's enforced by default. So anytime a volunteer wants to log hours, or an admin or a provider wants to log hours, they have to leave feedback first. So we encourage the volunteers to leave feedback so you can keep a track on your providers and your opportunities and make sure that nothing's going awry. And also the other way around for the admins and providers on the actual volunteers. This is probably the first and the simplest mechanism for leaving feedback that you'll come across in TeamKinetic. But again, it's the way that most volunteers want to be appreciated. As we mentioned just earlier on, as you mentioned about the email, we're trying not to leave cookie cutter feedback if at all possible. We speak about it as a Sunday of feedback. So you have your first scoop of ice cream, which is just the thank you for volunteering. And then you might have your sprinkles, which is some personal statement around thank you, Helen, you really helped out in this particular task, or you really helped this organization. And then the cherry on top might be something around encouraging them to return again. We'd love to see you again in a week or a month, or we'd like to see you again on the next opportunity. So you can layer that feedback, and that's really useful. It provides a sort of, the first scoop gives them that recognition that they're looking for. The second scoop contextualizes that recognition and makes them being valued and also seen that they've done something specific. And then the last one creates that sort of impetus, the cherry on top, to rejoin and do it again, because that's what we're all looking for, is that re-engagement. Depending on your structure, there will be some providers in this room as well. The providers may know your volunteers better than you do. You may be in a volunteer center or something like that where you're not as connected to the volunteers. So it's important that you encourage your providers to leave that feedback, and you pass on some of these things that you know about feedback and what makes good feedback and what makes bad feedback, and you encourage them to do it. And they may well know the volunteers better, and may also know the experience of the volunteers better, so they can leave better feedback than you could. So that's the ice cream Sunday that I just spoke about. In practical terms, to actually leave the feedback, as an admin, you've probably seen this already. I'm going to swap screens so we can see this in action in a minute. So you'll be faced with a thumbs up, thumbs down, which I'm sure you've seen. The vast majority of cases, it's a thumbs up. But certainly if you're in a situation where there's lots of providers that you maybe not as familiar with, you may find the occasional thumbs down where they're reporting an issue with a volunteer. If someone puts a negative feedback, so they put a thumbs down and leave a comment, that obviously doesn't go to the volunteer. It will only go to the admins. You're the only people that can see it on the screen there in the report, and you can act on that feedback and then remove it when it's been actioned. For the positive feedback, there is some settings in your options about whether this is automatically approved or not. So the feedback will, if you've got that option set off, the feedback will arrive. You'll get an email about it. You can go to the report, you can read it, and if you think it's okay, you can clear it. If a feedback is cleared, it means that it's visible to other volunteers. So if a volunteer says about an opportunity, oh, this opportunity is really good, I had a great time, that feedback will appear on the opportunity screen when the other volunteers look at it. So it's important that you check that option. And it's important that it's set how you want it to be, because you may want to filter this feedback, because some of it will end up back in the public domain. And again, for feedback on providers and opportunities by volunteers, that will be visible on the provider side once it's cleared as well. So check out that option. If you just excuse me while I do some screen swapping. Okay, can you all see that on the screen now? Brilliant. So in real life, this is what it looks like. You have your opportunity management page here. I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. You have your opportunity management page here, and you're looking for the log hours section. So if you've not left feedback for a volunteer, you'll be presented with these sorts of screens where we've got the thumbs up, thumbs down. There's a record show button, which we're not talking about today. And this is where you can leave individual feedback. So you leave the thumbs up, enter the text, very simple, hit save. And then you can move on to log in the hours. Dead simple. There's other places where you can leave this feedback and where you can see this feedback, but this is the main place where people will be doing it. So for your providers and yourselves, it's part of the opportunity management page, and you're looking for the log hours section, and you'll see this sort of screen. The other alternative is to do bulk feedback. So we're just going to share screen again. So when you're doing bulk feedback, obviously, it's better, as you already mentioned, for the feedback to be more personalized, that cookie, that ice cream sundae approach to feedback. But sometimes that's just not possible. If you've had a very, very busy opportunity and there's lots and lots of people on there, then you may have to do it in bulk. And that's where the bulk feedback comes in. So it's the same process. You leave a thumbs up, thumbs down. But the sort of buttons you're looking for, say, bulk feedback. And this is also part of the log all hours section as well. You hit the bulk feedback button, you just get the one screen to leave the comment, and then you log the feedback, and that will apply to everybody. In our opinion, and our advice is, if you have to leave bulk feedback, don't make it a secret, as it were. Don't pretend that it's not a bulk feedback and make out like it's personal to that person, because it comes off as a little bit false. So it might be that we've had a fantastic response. We've had hundreds of volunteers on this opportunity. Thank you so much for participating. Hopefully we'll get to you all individually in the future. Something like that. So you don't make a pretense that this is feedback that is specific to each volunteer, because they'll know. And that devalues that feedback quite a great deal. Once you leave the bulk feedback, I'm going to just let for this page to refresh. This will leave the same feedback, the same positive feedback for every volunteer in one go, and the same comment, as I said. So now when we go back to this page, they've all had their feedback done, and they've all had their hours logged already. So they're all done. Okay, so bulk feedback's a necessary evil sometimes. As I said, don't be scared of leaving the bulk feedback. If you've got to do it, you've got to do it. But also, don't pretend that it's specific to each volunteer, because they tend to find out. If you want to update the feedback at a later date, because you may have opportunities that are ongoing, they may be ongoing, and you want to tell that volunteer again, you can do that at any point. So if you go to the any volunteers management page, just click on any volunteer's name in the volunteer search, or wherever you're looking at the volunteer, and there's a section there for feedback. And when you look at that section, you'll see the feedback for Margaret, in this case, Margaret Pugh, our test volunteer, and also feedback by Margaret. So the first column is all the feedback that's been placed about Margaret on the opportunities, and the second column is the feedback that they've left for opportunities. And you can just hit the update link anytime you like and add to that feedback, and we will pass that on to the volunteer. So they'll get an email about that feedback. So if they've been around for a long time on opportunity, that's no reason for you not to keep nudging them and letting them know that you still appreciate the work they're doing. You don't need to just leave the feedback once. You can update it over and over again. You can also update it if things change. So yeah, it's not a fire once and forget for these feedbacks. Often we have opportunities that run for a year or more. Things like they're working in a charity shop or something like that. So it's important that periodically you return to that volunteer when you log in their hours and update the feedback. Because when you log the hours, although they get an alert to say the hours are logged, the feedback hasn't changed or updated. So you need to do that periodically, ideally. So talking about that, where people are volunteering for a long time, we're on to the custom award badges. These are a really, really great mechanism to recognize your volunteers, and can be very personalized to your organization, and can be done at any time for any reason. So there really is no limits. They're completely nominal. You can call them what they want, you can award them for what you want, and you can award them multiple times as well. It's really great if you've got an internal structure, a reward type and recognition structure for like service hours, length of service, volunteer of the month, volunteer of the week, these sorts of things. They're great for those sort of sequential awards that you can give over time. I don't know if anyone does Parkrun. Parkrun, I've got a similar system. I've done 25, done 50, 100, and people love those T-shirts they wear with, I've done 500 parkruns on the back. Never follow those people, by the way, if you do parkrun, because they always run too fast. When you award the badge, the volunteer will get an email about it, and the little badge that you design appears on their record of achievement, which a volunteer can see from their dashboard, and on their timeline and those sorts of things. Dead easy to create. If I just going to get to the screen here. So only super admins can create these badges. So you need to be a super admin, and then you go to the super admin settings. I'm just going to change this screen instead. So you go to super admin menu, which is the cog menu, hit setup, and then the award badges section here. Super simple to set up. This has the dual language for Wales, so most of you will only see one language here. Name, description. The criteria is something that gets embedded into the badge. So if they ever share the badge with other people, it lets them know why the badge was awarded. And we only have one action at the minute, which is manual. We're hoping to do this automatically on a later date, but right now you can ignore this setting, and then choose the image. You'll notice up here there's some links that let you know about open badges, what they are, what they signify, because they're a little bit more involved than just a sticker, as it were. They can be shared by volunteers and used in their own badge repository and things like this, so they can share these achievements with other people. There's also a link to a badge designer, which is a nice way, if you're not graphically inclined, to create badges. You've got various sorts of icons, logos, and text and images and things, and you can create your badges there and download them as pings and upload them back to the system. If you not got anyone to create these badges for you. There's just a case of saving that badge, and it'll appear in the list below here. For awarding the badges, as I said, this is a manual process. You can do it whenever you like, and each volunteer can have as many badges as they want. So again, in the volunteer profile pages, anywhere on the management pages, you head there to the summary, which is the first page you'll see, first section you'll see, and there'll be 2 columns there of the awarded and the available badges. Dead simple. All you do is put in the date for the badge award and click on the badge you want to award. That's it. They'll get the email about it. It'll appear on their timeline, their achievements, as I said. I'll stop clicking the screen. Any questions about award badges before we go on to the next section? Can't see any hands. Does anyone use the award badges yet? Hi, Helen.
Hey, yeah, we use them. I've tried to design a different way, so we're going from doing it a nature themed progression,
okay,
like the growing of a tree. The first one is the seed, the beginnings of potential, all the way up to kind of volunteer veteran. But we asked a bit of feedback. That was the most common answer, really. Yeah,
it's a great way of doing it. In the tech world, it's called gamification. So those little ticks you get and the progression is really, people like those sorts of things, and it can help with engagement. So I know the Wildlife Trust people, they have a set of badges that everyone uses, which are for certain months of service and years of service, and they go all the way up to 25 years, which is, they have different animals represented in each stage. That sort of idea is great. It reflects what happens with the hours as well. That's why volunteers are so keen to get their hours logged. They like to see them accruing, building up. I don't know if anyone ever gives blood. When you give blood, it's the same. I've given blood 5 times, 10 times, 25 times, and you get a little badge to go with that. So yeah, if you design a series of badges, that's a great way to let people. It gives volunteers an easy way to communicate where they are in the system as well, how their progress is going. Gives them something to aim for the next one. Anyone else? Well, hopefully, if you're not using them, you'll take a view now and have a look and see if you can get anywhere with it. If you are having troubles creating the graphics for the badges and you feel they may be a bit ropey looking, and it's not in your skill set, open a support ticket and let us know. We've got resources for these badges, and we've got places that can help you. We may be able to provide you with some as well. So don't not do it just because you get the images. Just get in touch. Okay, the hour trades is the next thing we want to talk about. So again, these are pretty customizable. You can create as many as you want. You can call them what you want. You can give them their own little graphics and things. You can set your own hour exchange rate, and you can manage them from within the admin pages. The way they work is all the hours that the volunteer has confirmed. So they're not the hours that the volunteer has logged. They must be confirmed by the admin or the provider. They're the only hours that count for hour trades. They can convert these into whatever the hour trade you selected is. So sometimes they're physical gifts, they're pin badges or T-shirts. Sometimes they're certificates. Sometimes they're experiences. It can be anything you want. If obviously this takes some effort in the admin, and obviously it takes some sort of financial commitment as well if you're going to use physical rewards. So it's not for everybody, but it's there if you need to use it. Again, not difficult to set up. Same area in the super admin setup. Look for the hour trade vouchers. Oh, actually, no, these are all in the reporting menu for some weird idiosyncratic reason. We'll have to get removed at some point. So if you head to the reporting menu, you've got the hour trade section there, and everything around hour trades is there. So you've got the reports about who's claimed hour trades, and you've also got the setup to add new hour trades. It's simple form, just a title, description, how much it costs in hours, if it expires, when it expires, and then the image for the voucher. Super easy. Again, try to use it again as with the custom award badges. Try to create a sequence or a set of connected images, that tie it all together so they don't look completely random. And again, just with the custom award badges, if you're struggling with the images, don't not use the feature just because of that. Just get in touch and we can help out. Hi, Ellen, got a question? Oh, you're on mute, Ellen. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, cool. Just a question. I tried to use these a long time ago.
Yes.
So this might not be the case anymore. So I'm just asking from what I remember. So we give out a kit for them to wear after they've done their first 10 hours of volunteering. But you can't, from what I remember, I couldn't limit it only to the first 10 hours. So if you put something like that on for 10 hours, every time they did 10 hours, that would show up. Is that still the case?
That's still the case, but I'm going to write that down. That's a good idea. So you want to limit an hour trade to 1 per volunteer? Yes. That shouldn't be that hard to achieve.
Okay, great.
I've just never thought of it before.
No, that's fine.
So yeah, I'll write that down and get in touch with my support ticket about that.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? So, hi, Ellie.
Hi, Happy New Year. Just a quick one.
Yes.
My understanding previously for Hour Trades was that you have some kind of partner called like Hour Trades or something that offered experiences or like, discounts and stuff. Is it actually that we come up with, so say there might be a local partner that might be offering something and we put that on ourselves, and then, we offer what they are going to gain from those hours?
We've got both. So later on, I'm going to talk about the integration. So there's tempo time credits and also tickets for good, which are ways to reward volunteers for their hours using external bodies. This for hour trades, it's internal. So if you've got partners you already work with that can provide you with some stuff, this is where you might choose to give it away.
Oh, okay. That's useful to know. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to, as I say, it's all in the reporting menu. So if I switch again, sorry for all the switching about. It's always annoying. So this is what you see from the reporting menu, our trades. So we just mentioned, click the add button and there's the form, super simple, only 4 things to fill in. It shows your existing hour trades, where they've expired, you can renew them, those sorts of things. And then you've got a list of the volunteers that have requested the hour trade. So this is the volunteer, that's the cost they've given, 4 hours, the date they asked for the exchange. And you can either refund or accept. So if you refund, maybe you've run out of the kit, or it's not applicable to this person, or for whatever reason, you can refund that hour exchange and they get the hours back, or you accept it. That takes the 4 hours, and then you have to process that hour exchange. Because of the varied nature, we can't really help with that. It may be a physical thing. You may be sending them something. You may have to ask them what they're sizing for a t-shirt, those sorts of things. So there's no extra help with those things within the system, unfortunately. It becomes manual at that point. And then there's a list of the things you've already exchanged. You can download this information as well. In terms of the volunteer, what they see, they'll see on their dashboard page, I'm going to see if I can impersonate a person and then see it. It's very simple for them. They're on their dashboard. There's an hour trade section in the dashboard. It shows them how many hours they've logged, and it shows them how many hours available for exchange, and it shows them the exchange vouchers, and they basically just click on it. It's pretty easy. So I'm just trying to find the right screen now so I can share it. Apologies for my voice, by the way. I've got a bit of a cold. I sound like I'm at the bottom of the sea. Okay, I'm just logging in as a volunteer so we can see. Okay, can everybody see that? So it appears down here in the hour trade section. And it shows them the vouchers they've redeemed. They've got 0 hours, so there's no vouchers available. Pick the wrong volunteer. But they'd see any vouchers here. In the second box, they'd see the ones that they've asked for but haven't been processed yet. And then the last box, they've got the one that has been redeemed by the admins. So it's super simple for the volunteers as well. Okay, any other questions about our trades? No, smashing. Okay, so as you just mentioned previously, there's also some integrations that can help with the reward and recognition. So we've got 2 that are applicable, which are available already. The first one is Tickets for Good, and the second one is Tempo time credits. Both of these require an initial sort of setup procedure. It's pretty simple for Tickets for Good. It's a bit more involved for Tempo, but you find them in the same place. So if you go to your super admin menu, just swap again, and it's in setup again, super admin setup, and you're looking for the integrations section here. And you'll see here, these are the sort of connections that we build, the integrations we build. We've got Govo, Coast Advantage. So then at the end here, Tempo time credits and Tickets for Good. So if you're not already set up for these things, you'll see a Get Started button, which sends us a quick email, prompts us. We'll get in touch with you, and we can start processing that. For Tickets for Good, it's just a case of us checking in with Tickets for Good that your organization fits their criteria. It's pretty broad. If you're a charity, if you're a government agency, like a council, those sorts of things, we can include most of our customers in that remit for them. For Tempo time credits, it's a little bit more involved. There are some extra bits of information here that you can click on and explain how it works. But we're going to talk about Tickets for Good first. So Tickets for Good started out of I think it was during the initial lockdown, where they were helping NHS workers and providing cheap tickets for gigs and stuff. So where tickets haven't sold, or there's leftover tickets, or sometimes the organisers are donating the tickets. But it's grown out of that. So there's zero cost to you. So it's great in that regard. Pretty quick to set up. You don't need to do anything. Just need to let us know. We check that the organization fits it within their remit, and we switch it on. From that point on, in that same screen I showed you earlier on about our trades, that changes to our trades and rewards. And when the volunteer clicks on it, one of the things they see there are your our trades, but also this Tickets for Good link. They have to pop out to Tickets for Good, create an account, and as long as they've logged 1 hour or more, they can create an account with Tickets for Good, and they can get free or heavily discounted tickets. And all they pay is the booking fee, which is usually around, it's only a few pounds. Therefore, if you check out the setup page in the integration section, there's a link there to take you to Tickets for Good, and you can have a little browse around yourself. They're for all sorts of things, not just for music concerts, but also for experiences, for gigs, for comedy things, theatre, all sorts of stuff. And there are plenty of tickets. It's not just the real rubbish things that nobody wants to go for. There are some really good gigs on there. Some of them are free and all they pay is a booking fee, and some of them are discounted, so they're like £10, that sort of price. So it's a great thing to do for your volunteers, and I say it's zero cost to you as an organization. The second system we have is Tempo time credits. This is similar to the hour trade system. So there is a cost to you as an organization. The way Tempo works is it is nationwide, but it's concentrated in certain areas. They are spreading. So it may not be suitable for where you are, because there may not be enough experiences for volunteers to exchange. But it is popping up all over the place. You may be able to, when we speak to you as an organization, we may be able to piggyback you on someone else's deal. So sometimes there's a regional partner. So in South Wales, for instance, there's some regional partners with Tempo who pay for the credits, but they distribute them out to charities and organizations in that area. So it's worth getting in touch about Tempo time credits, and we'll see what we can do. The way it works is you either are donated those time credits by a higher organization, or you purchase those time credits. And then you decide how volunteers earn them. Usually people choose a maximum number of hours per month that a volunteer can exchange for time credits. So if they log 100 hours in a month, they can exchange that for 2 Tempo time credits. If they log 50 hours in a month, they get 2 as well. So that's a maximum per month. So you can continue to reward people for continued engagement. Each month they can get more time credits. It's not front loaded, so people don't just turn up and take the time credits and disappear, but you can control how many they get. They register, again, it's all done through the dashboard. If you follow the links on the integrations, there's some PDFs and videos about how this works. They register on the dashboard, then they can exchange their hours they've logged for Tempo time credits. And again, there's all sorts of things. It's more of a curated list. So if you're purchasing the credits, you can choose which experiences and which products and things like this that they can exchange their hours for. But it's a similar sort of idea. They just pop the hours in, exchange them, claim the credits, and off they go. So it's a great way to provide that physical reward with little effort on your part once it's set up. Any questions about either of those? Hi, Helen.
Hi, Ralph. Yeah, I can't see where to. I've gone onto the integration area and I can't see where you would add the Tickets for Good, because it's something I'm really keen to do for our trust.
Okay, so you're on the integration section?
Yeah.
Can you see the GoVo digital ID bit?
Now I've gone to Super Admin, Setup.
Yep.
I've got terms and conditions all the way down to integrations. I can see API access, webhooks, widgets, digital ID and background, Tempo time credits, and DALT.
Okay, I'll check later on for you.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe you're maybe already be marked to have it. But
Great,
if you hang around later, I'll check.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Hi, Ellie. I noticed your message there about Tempo.
Oh yeah, sorry, I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way that we can see an example of what it might look like from a volunteer's accounts perspective to access Tickets for Good? Or I appreciate you might have to set something up first. I just wondered if it was possible to see today.
Let me check to see if I've got volunteers set up for it. Because the demo system isn't set up for Tickets for Good.
Thanks. If it's too much, I can stay at the end.
What I'll do is I'll record a little bit about it and send it to everyone afterwards.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, it is pretty simple. They just have to go, they get bounced out to a page and they just have to register. It's a little form to register. There's some instructions on the page for them. But yeah, I'll do a little video because I don't know what, we haven't got it set up on the demo site basically. So I can't show it.
No worries. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ellie raised in the message in there that, yeah, tempo isn't everywhere. So the coverage in your area might be poor, and so it's a poor investment then. But they are increasing their activity and moving into new areas all the time. So it's still worth checking in, Ellie, in a year's time or something, or 6 months, to see if they've improved their coverage. Okay, so I would recommend checking out that book by Ruth and Jürgen, Voluntary Involvement, Introduction to Theory and Practice. It's got some really good practical advice in there. And also, if you are struggling with re-engagement for volunteers, which is something we've touched on in this masterclass, we've got a guest speaker coming up next month. Toby is an American lady who is super, super enthusiastic and is a great speaker. And it's well worth coming to listen to her because she's going to do a presentation on re-engagement and the language to use and how to best achieve re-engagement of your volunteers. If you're not using Our Trades already, give it a whirl. Check it out. You can start small, even if it's just mugs or certificates and things like that. Check out the online badge designer and start that process for Tempo Time Credits, Tickets for Good, especially Tickets for Good, because it's there's no cost. It's a win-win situation. Just hit that button and we can get you connected with Tickets for Good. Okay, so that's it for that. I'm going to make a note now to make sure I don't forget to put a little video together to show you what Tempo. Well, you can see Tempo, how Tempo looks in integration and stuff using the links on the integration page. But I'll put together something for Tickets for Good and make sure I send that out for everybody so you can see what it looked like from the volunteers side. Any final questions? Ellie?
Sorry, me again. Have you got any good examples of where you've seen your customers use the hours trades function that has been really popular, or just some really quirky ideas that you think we should maybe consider?
I'll get some together. I'll distribute it with the video. Manchester Council used to have some great stuff. They used to do they had a lot of volunteers around sport, and often people are using volunteers as a stepping stone to get experience and things like this. So some of the things they offered were training. So things like, free first aid training or level 1 coaching training and things like this that they could get through the council because they were connected to the council, and they could give that to people. And that was crazy popular. So yeah, I'll get some together and distribute them. It's a good idea to ask in the peer chat as well to see if anyone else has done anything cool. Because obviously I don't constantly monitor everyone else's hour trace to see what they're up to. So that's a good place to ask as well. But I've added that to the list of info to find out about.
Super, thank you.
Izzy, for the workbook, yes, I'll get you the link right now. Just cut and paste it. It's also in the email you got about the course right at the start, telling you where the meeting was and all that sort of stuff. And it will be in the help menu as well, under the video tutorials masterclass section. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, great. Well, I hope your New Year's good. All our snows disappeared, which is a bit depressing, but it was great when it lasted. I hope you all have a great day. If anyone's got any other questions about anything a bit more far-ranging, then just hang around. We'll give everyone a chance to leave that wants to leave. Thanks, everybody.